but the future's bright. Don't want a handout, and I want it to cloud. Just want a chance to see what liberty can do for me. And now I stand on hallowed land. No going back, we will attack lines in the sand. 'Cause I'm a rebel, I am American. And when it needs to be awake with me, you know I can. 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 American.
And welcome to the Free American. About the 1000th issue, I would say. Today, yesterday I ran across a video. A lady here in Texas by the name of Catherine Engelbrecht. She said Obama makes Watergate look like a stubbed toe. In one of the last interviews she did, she said President Obama should be impeached because his political machine makes Watergate seem like a stubbed toe. She claimed she was being targeted by a political machine that is used to teach citizens to be subjects and that we are best to stay in line because the power bases and the machines they support don't have any intention of going anywhere. We are entering a time where if we allow ourselves to forget why we believe what we believe, it will be wiped clean from our memory, she said. That's a heady statement, but it's true. It is true. That's the longer play. That is, the longer play is for establishment of a permanent political class separate and apart from we the people. Well, I believe they did that back in 1933 when they made you, your children, and your parents collateral for the debt that, for the money that the United States borrowed to finance its wars, to finance its infrastructure, to line the pockets of its banksters and politicians. This is exactly, evidently, she has just woken up. She formed the Tea Party in Houston. She's formed True the Vote. And she, like me, like you, at one time, we were just ordinary citizens, man. You know, put some gas in the car and let's go to the football game. Let's go and sit by the lake and drink some beer. Let's take a ride up to Sturgis or down to Daytona and party for a week. That's our vacation. Then go back to work. Go back to work. But in this interview that Catherine gave, she was asked if high crimes and misdemeanors should be considered by Congress. Absolutely, Engelbrecht responded. I'm not sure about at what point we wake up. It's happening right before our eyes, things that make Watergate seem like a stubbed toe. What neither Gaffney nor Engelbrecht apparently wanted to point out was that True the Vote may have come under scrutiny after they challenged the voter registration of people that accused of committing fraud, mostly in heavily black and Latino districts, many of which were dismissed as frivolous. Name-dropping Watergate will not make the comparison any more true than screaming about injustice will magically render Engelbrecht innocent. What's happening is she's being attacked on one side for her actions, and on the other, she is being attacked by IRS, BATF, and this woman is brave enough to get up and talk about it before Congress. She gave testimony at the House of Representatives hearing on IRS targeting. Let's hear that.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Catherine Engelbrecht, and I'm the chairwoman of True the Vote, a nonprofit election integrity organization, the founder of King Street Patriots, a citizen-led liberty group, and president of Engelbrecht Manufacturing. Thank you for this opportunity to share my story with you today, though at the outset, it must be said that it is a story with a central theme that is shared by countless thousands of other Americans who have not yet been heard from, though I pray that they will be. It must be made publicly known that across this country, citizens just like me are being targeted by an administration willing to take any action necessary to silence opposition. I am an average American who, prior to 2009, had never been active in the processes of government. But after volunteering to work in the polls in Texas in the 2009 elections, I saw fundamental procedural problems that I felt couldn't go unaddressed. So I started True the Vote, an organization that grew into a national movement to ensure that every American voter has an opportunity to participate in elections that are free and fair. My life before I got involved and spoke out for big government stands in stark contrast to the life I now lead. As a wife, a mother, a small businesswoman working with my husband, raising our children and participating in my church and PTA, the government collected my taxes and left me and my family in peace. But once I helped found True the Vote and King Street Patriots, I found myself a target of this federal government. Shortly after filing IRS forms to establish 501c3 and C4 tax-exempt organizations, an assortment of federal entities, including law enforcement agencies and Congressman Cummings, came knocking at my door. In nearly 2 decades of running our small business, my husband and I never dealt with any government agency outside of filing our annual tax returns. We'd never been audited, we'd never been investigated, but all that changed upon submitting applications for the nonprofit statuses of True the Vote and King Street. Since that filing in 2010, my private businesses, my nonprofit organizations, my family, and I have been subjected to more than 15 instances of audit or inquiry by federal agencies. In 2011, my personal and business tax returns were audited by the Internal Revenue Service, each audit going back for a number of years. In 2012, my business was subjected to inspection by OSHA on a select occasion when neither my husband or I were present, and though the agency wrote that it found nothing serious or significant, it still issued fines in excess of $20,000. In 2012 and again in 2013, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms conducted comprehensive audits at my place of business, and beginning in 2010, the FBI contacted my nonprofit organization on 6 separate occasions, wanting to call through membership manifests in conjunction with domestic terrorism cases. They eventually dropped all matters and have now redacted nearly all my files. All of these incursions into my affairs began after filing applications for tax exemption. There is no other remarkable event. There's no other reason to explain how, for decades, I went unnoticed, but now find myself on the receiving end of interagency coordination into and against all facets of my life, both personal and private. Bear in mind, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of this subcommittee, these events were occurring while the IRS was subjecting me to multiple rounds of abusive inquiries with requests to provide every Facebook and Twitter I'd ever posted, questions about my political aspirations, and demands to know the names of groups that I'd spoken with, the content of what I'd said, and everywhere I intended to speak in the coming year. The answers to these sorts of questions are not of interest to the typical IRS analyst, but they are certainly of interest to a political machine that would put its own survival against the civil liberties of a private citizen. This government attacked me because of my political beliefs, but I refuse to be cast as a victim. Not to the IRS, not to the FBI, not to OSHA, not to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or to any other government agency. I am not a victim, because a victim has no options. I do have options, and I intend to use them to the fullest extent of my capabilities. As an American citizen, I am part of a country that still believes in freedom of speech, and so I will continue to speak out. Here in Congress and all across this country, I will continue to press in every legal way possible, as I did by filing suit against the Internal Revenue Service. No American citizen should be willing to accept a government that uses its power against its own people. After all the tyranny and all the things that have been done to my organizations, to my family, and to me, many people would quit, and Mr. Chairman, many Americans have quit. I've heard over and over that people are afraid to tell their stories. But know this. My experience at the hands of this government in the last 5 years have made me more determined ever than before to stand before you and to all of America and say that I will not retreat, I will not surrender, I will not be intimidated, and I will not ask for permission to exercise my constitutional rights. I come before you today, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Americans just like me, asking for a solution to end this ugly chapter of political intimidation. There was a time when people of goodwill were encouraged to participate in the processes of government, not targeted because of it. I applaud your request of the Internal Revenue Service to withdraw a proposed regulation limiting political speech by nonprofit organizations. That action should be taken quickly and without fail, because if it is not, it will effectively codify into law the very thing that brings me here today. If those regulations pass, nonprofit organizations across the country will be destroyed. No American, regardless of their political affiliation, should support the silencing of political speech. Beyond ending the proposed IRS regulations, I ask you, I implore you, as representatives of the people of this great nation, to pass a law that protects all citizens of this country from the increasing use of such abusive practices. Pass a law that exposes government officials who trample on the rights of ordinary citizens. Do not allow them to continue to cower behind a veil of secrecy, abuse, unethical, and unfair behavior. Send the President a bill that makes public, at the option of persons and entities regulated, all communication between government agencies and those they regulate, no restricted, redacted, selectively released files. Give us a truly transparent process. Protect the people. Restore liberty to the people, because we will not be silenced. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman, committee's members.
Thank you, Ms. Engelbrecht.
Yeah, right. I think she did a masterful job, and hopefully I'll be in touch with her. Maybe she might even call in today. I did leave a message with her. She has said that we are entering a time where if we allow ourselves to forget why we believe what we believe, it will be wiped clean from our memories. That's a heady statement, but it's true. This is a longer play for the establishment of a permanent political class separate and apart from we the people. Now, let's move on. And I will take calls today if you wish. If you're listening and you know how to operate a telephone, which I know many people on the internet have forgotten how to do that. If they can't text it, they don't want to talk to you. And I get a lot of people whining about, well, why don't you let me on? I say, well, why don't you call in? Yeah. The number is 646-915-8774 for a call-in to Blog Talk Radio. And I got Dave Koss, Dr. D. Charge is on my chat room. Jerry is there. I've been talking here. I don't know. The show has been playing. I don't know. Yeah, it's warm here. It's nice here right now. Nice here. 69 degrees. My favorite. Just got sound. What does that mean? What does that mean? You couldn't hear Let me play something. Just tell me if you hear this, Jerry.
There we have the body of Osiris. That's the sky is supported on the bottom line. So the sky is supported by two phallic pillars.
All right. Were you able to hear that in the chat room? That's something I was thinking about playing here with Jordan Maxwell. But if you're not able to hear it, maybe it's not transmitting. I don't know. I don't know. And hey, Sharon, welcome. Yeah, you can hear me on YouTube. I'm recording right now on YouTube, but that means you're a day late, possibly $1 short. Now, let's see. The Operation American Spring is coming up, and they're telling you that we have an opportunity to reach a huge number of patriots during the final 6-week run-up to the start of Operation American Spring. Folks who attend gun shows, prepper survivalist expos, aviation fly-ins are some of the most patriotic citizens. Mr. Steve Tyler of Restating T-Shirt Company says he's an avid Operation American Spring supporter, has volunteered to spread the word throughout the nation about American Spring. This effort may facilitate our using facilities at gun shows and other events nationwide. And they're telling state leaders to go scroll down the left side of the page, find your state and identify upcoming gun shows in your states. I'd love to do that again, but I don't have the backing to travel. I don't have the facilities, the ability to travel. And actually, I'm being limited even more due to shortage of funds. I was not able to pay a ticket that I had back in Arizona, so I may not be able to drive. I may not be able to get to the store anymore until I can get that cleared up, and that's all a matter of waiting for enough money to come in to clear it up. You can make a donation at freeamerican.com. Now, this is what they do, folks. This is what they do. They have limited our ability to move. They've contacted every stockholder in a publicly traded company that I sold one of my magazines. One magazine, one publishing company, 2 magazines. It's what I had before my so-called accident. And I've got people pretending to be, or maybe they are, government agents. Since the CIA doesn't show you badges, I don't know if they were CIA, Mossad, or ADL, or Phoenix Gang Squad. I got no idea. But this woman that I just played for you, Catherine Engelbrecht, and I don't know, David, tell me, could you hear Catherine when I was playing that? I need to know if it was the sound of the video. Was the video getting through? I know it was coming through on my YouTube. I know you could hear him on that. So, David, if you would, were you able, Jerry couldn't hear it. Jerry couldn't hear it. How about you, David? Were you able to hear it? David, gosh, were you able to hear the first part of the show where I played Karen Albrecht's statement to the Senate? And Tar and Feather says we got no sound either. So what's happening on Blog Talk? You can also go to Truth Radio. You can hear it on Truth Radio. Let me see what we got here. We're missing We're missing Crusade. Let's see if we can get Crusade up there. Okay. All right. We are now broadcasting on Crusade. And Mel, I was not able to get on Crusade at the top of the hour. It said the line was busy, so whoever you got on before me is not hanging up, is not letting me have access. It took me 30 minutes to get access into Crusade. And we've been on Truth Radio all the time. We have been on Blog Talk all the time. But people are telling me we do not have sound there. You got sound now? You got sound now or not? Well, maybe I ought to just hang this whole goddamn thing up and not do a show. If you can't hear me and you can't answer me on the chat room and tell me whether or not you can hear me, I can't really identify the problem, can I? Tar and feather, no sound? Well, then get the hell out. Jesus Christ. Well, you can hear Clay now. You said no sound before. You said no sound before. Well, okay. I'm not replaying it. It's linked. The statements of Catherine no sound on the clip you played. All right. Well, let's try that again. Because I do have the sound up. Let's see if you can hear this, just as an experiment here. Let's see if you can hear this. I did put it up. I did put it up on my website, so you can hear that. But, and that ain't working. Okay. All right, let me try this. See what's happening here. Sometimes it doesn't, a video played on one of these things does not go through into another computer or the same computer. I don't know what the hell is happening here. But you can hear me now. We'll go on. Let's see if you can hear Catherine Engelbrecht on this part of the show here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Catherine Engelbrecht, and I'm the chairwoman of True the Vote, a nonprofit election integrity organization, the founder of King Street Patriots, a citizen-led liberty group, and president of Engelbrecht Manufacturing. Thank you for this opportunity to share my story with you today, though at the outset,
Now, can you hear her talking now? All right. All right, Jerry, we got some sound. This is what I played at the beginning of the show, but I guess you couldn't hear it. Now I'm playing it on another machine, and so we'll play this. This is important because not only was I targeted 10 years ago before Snowden, before Bradley Manning, who, by the way, was sentenced to 35 years in prison for allowing you to see us murdering people in Iraq. So let's go on. Catherine, speak up. All right.
It must be said that it is a story with a central theme that is shared by countless thousands of other Americans who have not yet been heard from, though I pray that they will be. It must be made publicly known that across this country, citizens just like me are being targeted by an administration willing to take any action necessary to silence opposition. I am an average American who, prior to 2009, had never been active in the processes of government. But after volunteering to work in the polls in Texas in the 2009 elections, I saw fundamental procedural problems that I felt couldn't go unaddressed. So I started Through the Vote, an organization that grew into a national movement to ensure that every American voter has an opportunity to participate in elections that are free and fair. My life before I got involved and spoke out for good government stands in stark contrast to the life I now lead. As a wife, a mother, a small businesswoman working with my husband, raising our children and participating in my church and PTA, the government collected my taxes and left me and my family in peace. But once I helped found Through the Vote and King Street Patriots, I found myself the target of this federal government. Shortly after filing IRS forms to establish 501c3 and C4 tax-exempt organizations, an assortment of federal entities, including law enforcement agencies and Congressman Cummings, came knocking at my door. In nearly 2 decades of running our small business, my husband and I never dealt with any government agency outside of filing our annual tax returns. We'd never been audited. We'd never been investigated. But all that changed upon submitting applications for the nonprofit statuses of Through the Vote and King Street. Since that filing in 2010, my private businesses, my nonprofit organizations, my family, and I have been subjected to more than 15 instances of audit or inquiry by federal agencies. In 2011, my personal and business tax returns were
Well, that's interesting.
In 2011, my personal and business tax returns were audited by the Internal Revenue Service, each audit going back for a number of years. In 2012, my business was subjected to inspection by OSHA on a select occasion when neither my husband or I were present, and though the agency wrote that it found nothing serious or significant, it still issued fines in excess of $20,000. In 2012 and again in 2013, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms conducted comprehensive audits at my place of business, and beginning in 2010, the FBI contacted my nonprofit organization on 6 separate occasions, wanting to call through membership manifests in conjunction with domestic terrorism cases. They eventually dropped all matters and have now redacted nearly all my files. All of these incursions into my affairs began after filing applications for tax exemption. There is no other remarkable event. There's no other reason to explain how, for decades, I went unnoticed, but now find myself on the receiving end of interagency coordination into and against all facets of my life, both personal and private. Bear in mind, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of this subcommittee, these events were occurring while the IRS was subjecting me to multiple rounds of abusive inquiries with requests to provide every Facebook and Twitter I'd ever posted, questions about my political aspirations, and demands to know the names of groups that I'd spoken with, the content of what I'd said, and everywhere I intended to speak in the coming year. The answers to these sorts of questions are not of interest to the typical IRS analyst, but they are certainly of interest to a political machine that would put its own survival against the civil liberties of a private citizen. This government attacked me because of my political beliefs, but I refuse to be cast as a victim. Not to the IRS, not to the FBI, not to OSHA, not to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or to any other government agency. I am not a victim, because a victim has no options. I do have options, and I intend to use them to the fullest extent of my capabilities. As an American citizen, I am part of a country that still believes in freedom of speech, and so I will continue to speak out. here in Congress and all across this country. I will continue to press in every legal way possible, as I did by filing suit against the Internal Revenue Service. No American citizen should be willing to accept a government that uses its power against its own people. After all the tyranny and all the things that have been done to my organizations, to my family, and to me, many people would quit, and Mr. Chairman, many Americans have quit. I've heard over and over that people are afraid to tell their stories. But know this. My experience at the hands of this government in the last 5 years have made me more determined ever than before to stand before you and to all of America and say that I will not retreat, I will not surrender, I will not be intimidated, and I will not ask for permission to exercise my constitutional right. I come before you today, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of Americans just like me, asking for a solution to end this ugly chapter of political intimidation. There was a time when people of goodwill were encouraged to participate in the processes of government, not targeted because of it. I applaud your request of the Internal Revenue Service to withdraw a proposed regulation limiting political speech by nonprofit organizations. That action should be taken quickly and without fail, because if it is not, it will effectively codify into law the very thing that brings me here today. If those regulations pass, nonprofit organizations across the country will be destroyed. No American, regardless of their political affiliations, support the silencing of political speech. Beyond ending the proposed IRS regulations, I ask you, I implore you, as representatives of the people of this great nation, to pass a law that protects all citizens of this country from the increasing use of such abusive practices. Pass a law that exposes government officials who trample on the rights of ordinary citizens. Do not allow them to continue to cower behind a veil of secrecy, abuse, unethical, and unfair behavior. Send the President a bill that makes public, at the option of persons and entities regulated, all communication between government agencies and those they regulate, no restricted, redacted, selectively released files. Give us a truly transparent process. Protect the people. Restore liberty to the people, because we will not be silent. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
Thank you, Ms. Engelbrecht.
All right. Got to put her up, and we're working on a couple other things here. Let's see if we can get a question about American Spring up right now. And I've got Gordon Maxwell on hold here. But I've also got an article by Matt Taibbi, T-A-I-B-B-I, from Rolling Stone that says that everything is rigged, the biggest price-fixing scandal ever. We'll take a look at that in a moment. He said the Illuminati were amateurs. The second huge financial scandal of the year reveals the real international conspiracy. There's no price the big banks can't fix. Conspiracy theorists of the world, believers in the hidden hands of the Rothschilds and the Masons and the Illuminati, we skeptics owe you an apology. You were right. The players may be a little different, but your basic premise is correct. The world is a rigged game. We found this out in recent months when a series of related corruption stories spilled out of the financial sector, suggesting that the world's largest banks may be fixing the prices of well, just about everything. uh, all right. I don't think I'm talking with Texas Rose, who's a little bashful about her English accent. Let's see if we can get her, talk her into it. But while we're on this Mount Tabby thing, let's do this. Hang on a second. Now that I know, hang on. All right. Come on. All right. This thing is so screwed up here, I can't believe it. All right, let's see if we can find this. I just think this is kind of in line here. Let's do this.
Let me tell you why you're here. It is the world of luxury that has been. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks. And it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pocket, and they own all the big all the big media companies. So they control just about all the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all fucking sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
All right. That was George Carlin. But I mentioned something about Operation American Spring, and I think I have Laurel Hendricks up. Hello, Laurel. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, Clay. Thanks for having me on.
Very nice to have you. Sorry to be such a short order here, but I was...
no problem.
All right. You know, I've been wanting to talk to Harry since this whole thing started. I haven't had a chance to connect with him. Hopefully you can arrange that, and I can have him on for a full 2 hours on the show.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Obviously, we have a problem, and it's our politicians. And I have been addressing this problem on the Free American Hour, the Free American Magazine, my radio shows and websites, and my books for almost 20 years. I saw the problem start when I sat in my boat in Miami and watched the BATF stormtroopers go in and murder 17 little children and their families in a church that had been there for 50 years in Waco. I thought we had a problem. So I swore to my wife I would never sit back and watch something like that happen again. So I did a few things. I started this radio show, and I started the militias around the country. Did it with my radio show, did it with my magazine, and of course I got demonized for that. You know, my response was basically to the ADL and Southern Poverty Law. What part of the Second Amendment don't you understand? And this, the militia that I started in the governor's office, so it wasn't exactly a terrorist organization. Now, few months back, some truckers and about 1 million of my biker brothers. I've been riding motorcycle, riding a Harley most of my life, and they went into Washington as there was a response to supposedly a 1 million Muslim march. I think 20 Muslims showed up, but 1 million bikers showed up. And the only mistake, in my opinion, that they made was leaving before they arrested the members of Congress and the president. Tell me about Operation American Storm.
Well, actually, it's called Operation American Spring, and we're going to do exactly what you said. Yes, sir. The objective, the mission is to mass in Washington, D.C. on starting May 16th of this year, and it's going to be peaceful and unarmed, but we are going to stay until we do exactly that we either arrest or take out, remove the list of corrupt politicians, starting with our executive branch, and then hopefully we'll put enough pressure on the rest to ask that they will resign in the process. But like you, I've been to 2 9/12 rallies. I've watched, with interest the biker rally. Of course, nothing was televised or anything like that. They even shut the cameras down for you guys that time. But, it's one day, it's one event, and everybody feels good. We feel like we've accomplished something. Hopefully they've heard our message. But then we go home and nothing changes. So this, we hope, is going to be something different because we are going to stay there long enough to create this change. that we so desperately need in this country.
Well, I agree with that. And for 20 years, I have been promoting biker rallies in Washington, D.C. Operation, for the POWs and MIAs, Rolling Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I have promoted that and advertised for that for almost 20 years. And you know, we got a lot of pride there, a lot of camaraderie, but we didn't solve anything. We still had Songbird McCain in there trying to stifle any kind of real solutions. And, you know, he was the John McCain, not only being a presidential candidate, you know, he was known by his fellow prisoners at the Hanoi Hilton as Songbird McCain because he made propaganda films. And I also tried to take part in to accomplish something in the mainstream elections. I was the speechwriter, publicist, PR director, bodyguard, and driver for a presidential candidate by the name of Charles Collins in 1996. Went to every Republican convention with him from Maine to California. And you probably never heard of Charles Collins, although he was the first Republican to sign up for the thing. Rhodes Scholar, former banker, wealthy Georgia businessman. Because every time Charles got up on stage to tell people we could buy back the Federal Reserve, every camera on stage was pointed at the ground, turned off, and the cameraman took a smoke break. In 2 states, they even unplugged his microphone. So my hopes for electing an honest politician, excuse the oxymoron, it didn't happen and couldn't happen. So this means that does the media control the government or does the government control the media? Did the mafia take over the government or did the government take over the mafia? Which one? You know, I mean, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Go ahead, dear. Go ahead.
They're certainly in bed together. Let's put it that way. And until we are able to, basically, I mean, that's why I firmly believe we have to make the drastic change and get all of them out and start over again. And the part of the problem that you've alluded to is the political system is also broken. And that's going to take some time to fix. But I think if we send a message that we want these people out, we want our country back, and we're going to put in honest representatives that are going to go do their job, not listen to special lobbyists and special interests, but listen to their constituents back home, and to start to put this country back on track. It's that or we've truly lost everything.
Well, since we haven't had a president since George Washington that was not a member of one of the 2 parties, and I refer to the Republicans and Democrats as 2 wings of the same bird, and that bird's a global vulture, it ain't an American eagle. Now, I think that if we cleaned house, and the American people have been pledged by our executive branch, by the Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933 is collateral to the bankers. Now, the reason Charles Collins couldn't get up and couldn't get any airtime on television was because he wanted to close down the Federal Reserve. I carry a $5 bill that was printed by John F. Kennedy, 1963, United States note. And, of course, we know what happened to Kennedy. They killed him. The banksters, and the only problem I have is really trying to explain to people what the difference is between fascism and communism. Again, two wings of the same bird. It's two wings of the same bird, and you are the slaves.
Yeah. Yes.
They've really refined the art of slavery to the point the slave don't know they're slave. I'm not a slave. I can go get my pickup and go get a beer. Watch. It's called economic slavery. And I would like to see a change here. I've worked with presidential candidates. I've worked with the militia. I helped start the militia. And the militia today is still active. There are people, friends of mine that I've been supporting and talking to for 20 years, like Sheriff Richard Mack, who have started the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association, honoring their oath to defend the Constitution. And a lot of those sheriffs that are a member of that organization are setting up militias in their county. So maybe we could do it county by county. Now, your Harry Riley's plan is a little bit more ambitious, and I would love to take part of you. They have tried to kill me when I referred to 9/11, saying no Arabs in a cave in Afghanistan could make the U.S. Air Force stand down. They tried to kill me. I put building number 7 on the cover of my magazine, and suddenly I didn't have a magazine anymore. I almost didn't have a life anymore. They kept me drugged for 3 months in 3 hospitals for 3 broken ribs. Maybe that's standard medical procedure these days, maybe under Obamacare, but this was before Obamacare.
Well, what I would do at this point is put out the request to the bikers, the militias. We are asking the militia to come out and support us, and also the bikers. We need every live-blooded patriot that we can muster to start this event on May 16th. And if you can't be there at the beginning, if you can come the next week or the week after, because it's not, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to solve this over the weekend or things like that. It may take us some time. But if you look at what the people did in Egypt, and if you look at what people are doing in Thailand right now,
hold on just a second. Hold on, wait a minute, just a second here. Hold on.
Truthradio.com. The truth is out there.
All right, sorry, that was just a station break. And I want you to know, for the last month, I have had a banner up on Operation American Spring. Join us in Washington, D.C., May 16th to 2014. I've had that up, and the links are to the Facebook site. So it's and I've also got Wiley Drake coming on my show tomorrow, and he's talking about the Patriots prayer train that'll visit 49 Whistle Stop.
Yes.
So I am doing everything I can. Go ahead.
Okay, there's actually there's several websites, and the main one is operationspring.org, and there you can sign up and look at your state groups. I'm up here in South Dakota. I'm actually a Texas transplant living up here in South Dakota and have taken the reins as a state coordinator. There are some states right now looking for state coordinators. So if you go online and find that nobody signed up for a state rep, please do so. There's also all kinds of positions within the organization that we need to fill. We need ham operators, because we're expecting that they're going to shut down the media. They may shut down the internet. We need to be able to communicate, so we're looking for ham operators.
All right, give me that website. Give me that website again, dear.
The website, okay, it's OperationAmericanSpring.org, O-R-G. And there's also, it's OAS2014.com. And then, like you said, Facebook, if you just type in Operation American Spring, there's the main link to the national ones. I've got a state page. Several of the state coordinators have state pages. We would just love everybody, and please share the word. If you can't go, if you've got $5, $10, you can donate towards gas for somebody that can go, because this is financially hard on a lot of us. But, you know, I've decided I just have to go. I want to try to save this country. I'm tired of sitting back and just sitting around complaining, pointing out the flaws, and discussing the ills of this country. I'm hoping that I can create a positive change in this country. But there's a lot of people that can't go. There's on the Operation American Spring website, there's a group called the Patriot Prayer Warriors group. We are trying to get a 24/7 prayer group going, that we are going to be surrounded in prayer starting now through the whole time that we're in Washington, D.C., because without God, you know, we're doomed to fail. But with God, no telling what we can do. So there's just lots of stuff, but the main thing right now is we're trying to get the word out, because a lot of people have not heard about this, and a lot of people would be interested. A lot of people are interested in sharing rooms, sharing cars, sharing transportation, things like that. But we need to get organized. We need to get going, because May 16th is going to be here before we know it. And like I said, I would put out a call to all the militia, the bikers, the Tea Parties, everybody and anybody who is a true patriot that loves this country. Come out and show your support, either in person or in prayer or in any other type of support that you can do.
Well, Texas Rose has told me that she will have some of our leaders. She got me your number, and
yes.
that she will have these some people on. I got from let's see, from next Monday on, I will donate this show 2 hours every day. Blog Talk Radio, Truth Radio, YouTube. I will donate it to Operation American Spring.
Well, thank you, sir. God bless you.
And
I'll be sure to share your radio show on my Facebook page and on all my links and things like that as well too. So we really appreciate that type of commitment.
Well, this show and every show, both on Facebook and YouTube, I'm Free American 69 on Facebook. And this show is there.
Okay.
This show is always there. It's put up automatically by Blog Talk Radio. I'm also through Truth Radio. I'm linked to TalkStream Live. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and even with their attempts to kill me and silence me and stop me and discredit me, I'm still here. I'm still here. And I published 2 biker magazines over the last 30 years. And I don't know how many bikers that listen to me right now. I don't know who is out there. I'm blocked in libraries. I'm blocked in a lot of places. So that's why I need people like you to tell people about the show on Facebook. Because if you're in an Office Depot and you try to, or a library, and you try to plug it to hear my show, you can't hear it. They won't let you. I'm a porno site here or something.
Well, and unfortunately, it's getting worse and worse. You know, and we laugh about it, but it's just a really sad state of affairs, is it not? That, you know, it's almost like good is bad and bad is good. I mean, it's insane.
Yes, it is. It's pretty. It's. If it wasn't so serious and so sad, it'd almost be funny. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm in a science fiction movie, you know? It's
yes, I feel like.
I write science fiction.
It's almost like, what else can happen? It's like, what else can happen? But it's happening so quickly, and what frustrates me is that the amount that the sheer number of American citizens that are not even awake and do not see what's going on and do not realize that our country is literally going down the drain. And if we don't stand up now, we're going to lose it. And all these things that we take for granted, and, you know, and as I tell people, you know, We are where we are because it's our fault. We allowed this to happen to us. We trusted our representatives. You know, we sat back in our lazy boy chairs thinking they were doing their business, they were taking care of us, they were representing us. But we didn't watch them, we didn't follow them. We didn't go to the school board meetings, we didn't go to the local city council meetings. But we have to. We have to be involved. That's our duty. That's our responsibility as American citizens. So, you know, I take partial blame for the problem, but I want to fix it, and that's what I'm trying to do with this effort, with this mission, you know, that Colonel Riley is spearheaded. So hopefully we will succeed.
Well, we can. We've done it before. The gentleman I had on yesterday talked about the Declaration of Independence, and a lot of about every other year or so, I'll read the whole Declaration of Independence on July 4th. And it sounds like it's happening today. It's hard to believe this occurred 200 years ago, because everything that they talk about is it's happening today. It happened then. It happened then. The original, our founding fathers fought the original New World Order, the empire on which the sun never sets. And it's still here. It's still here.
Well, yeah. It's still here. Unfortunately, I should say the bankers are still here.
Yeah.
So we're still fighting the same set of times.
I did one film.
Look at it that way.
I did one film that basically said no such thing as a New World Order. I said the money changers Jesus ran out of the temple are still with us. They just changed the name of the temple now. They call it the Federal Reserve or the Bank of England or the International Monetary Fund.
Right.
But we can change it. We can change it. And we've been,
we have to. Yeah.
It's happened so long ago. You know, in 1933, I've just had stories up and links up about Franklin Delano Roosevelt leading us into war against our own people. I mean, the World War was a war on Germans, and the Germans weren't our enemy. They were simply trying to protect themselves from the same kind of financial savagery that we face today. We bailed out banks that were too big to fail. Wait a minute. We bailed out the same banks that print the money. They loaned us the money to bail them out.
Yep. And they won't tell us where it went. And I don't know how far back in your research you've gone, but the Civil War was actually created by the bankers as well. It had nothing to do with slavery. It had a lot to do with states' rights, but it was the bankers in the North that wanted to control banking and the agricultural industry of the South, and that's why the Civil War was fought.
We've talked about that, and as a matter of fact,
and of course
since I am from Texas, I've been under Six Flags. We've been under Six Flags, and personally, I think we ought to restore the Republic. I don't think we should have ever gave away those mountains. I don't like to drive to another state to see my mountains, you know.
Well, you're talking to somebody that belongs to the Texas National Movement.
All of my books,
all of my books
are printed by the Texas, the Texas Independence Movement. So we, it's multifaceted, but it's really pretty simple. I mean, if somebody's trying to take what you own, if somebody's trying to take, I tell people, anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you being able to feed yourself. They go after the intelligentsia next. That's any of us that are smart enough to know what the hell they're doing. And third, they go after the law enforcement or the veterans that are still loyal to the old regime. That would be us oath keepers. No expiration date on that oath we took.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. They in my book Mystery Babylon, I put that out because the whole the Homeland Security, our SS, our KGB, they went after the veterans. In their assessment report, they were trying to say the veterans were the bad guys, and even right up to this day, you've got Dianne Feinstein, who personally I would be on the forefront to arrest her for treason. She's saying that the veterans shouldn't be able to own arms because they're mentally ill. That was her latest statement.
Well, that's the same group that's teaching the police force and the academies that George Washington and that whole group was a bunch of terrorists too.
That's right. And by the way, George, that brings my other little favorite subject up. At the same time that Roosevelt pledged us to the banksters, they in 1933, they also stole our #1 cash crop. A crop that was grown by Thomas Jefferson, that was grown by George Washington, that whose paper they used to write our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution on, and not to mention publishing the Encyclopedia Britannica for 100 years on hemp paper. And today we can't do. We got one state we can grow hemp in again. One state that you can smoke a joint without going to prison for it. This whole prison industrial complex is one of my sore spots, because I did time in Texas back when it was 99 years to have a joint in your pocket.
Well, and I'm sure you know that hemp and marijuana are two different species.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and so why we can't grow hemp is beyond my I just can't believe, because that is a wonderful, wonderful crop for so many uses.
Well, the hemp roots, and come on, keep in mind, the only thing marijuana is a sex-starved hemp plant.
I did not know that.
That may not be exactly technically correct, but that's the way I look at it. You can't smoke enough. You'd have to smoke a telephone pole made out of hemp to get high, and you probably couldn't at that. But the hemp roots go so deep into the ground that they used it for a rotational crop on our farms, and the hemp roots go down, and that pulls out the fulvic acid that only to get it today, they got to get it from prehistoric plants or from the hemp plant. And that's why hemp will cure cancer, and that's why hemp has become at least accessible in 20 states, because for medical use. It's the most beneficial plant of renown. The Bible referred to it at. And the reason it's illegal is DuPont don't want you to have it. Rockefeller don't want you to have it. You know, well, listen. And I personally, I think the elite or your politicians banned it because they were afraid we'd use hemp ropes to hang them with, which ain't a bad idea in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, once a Harry gets here, what are we going to do? I mean, they will set. I mean, and they've done this before. Remember the bonus army when the World War I veterans went to Washington to collect, and then Eisenhower was set against them, MacArthur was set against them, and they ran them down. Now, if we're going there without guns, or we're going out there without weapons, aren't they going to just round us up and mow us down? And also, let me bring up another thing here. I'd like your comments on. We've heard about these FEMA camps, We know that they're real,
Mm-hmm.
and they are using
Mm-hmm.
them now. They made 1 million over the last 2 years. They made over 1 million Americans homeless. They took their homes away. They took their jobs away. They couldn't make their house payments. So the bankers have become the landlords. And if you can't afford a home and you're homeless, suddenly now they're using the FEMA camps. They're talking about rounding up the homeless and putting them in FEMA camps. Well, it's not. We're not imprisoning them. We're not putting them in prison. But you got to get permission to get on a bus to leave. So you may not be able to leave at all. So this is they're taking the poorest people and rounding them up. And I think this is probably the second biggest tragedy. The first biggest tragedy is the fact that more of my brothers that did go to Vietnam killed themselves after they got home. And how many homeless vets are out there? Again, this is rounding up the homeless. They want to round up the veterans that are living on the streets. They want to round up the veterans that have been kicked out by the VA. And now we'll just include anybody that's homeless. We'll make it illegal to be homeless.
Yeah. Well, let me address that, because what my concern about that is that's just the beginning. What did Hitler do? You know, who did he round up first? It wasn't the Jews. You know, it slowly but surely. So isn't that nice? We're going to take the homeless off the streets and we're going to give them a place to live. Oh, how humane is that? But it's not. Like you said, it's a prison. Now, and then the vets. Yeah, they're rounding them up, and God knows what they have shot them up with vaccine-wise and drugged them with that makes them, somewhat psychotic. And I believe right now I forget what the number is, but it's something just astronomical. How many veterans are committing suicide every day now? And it's just, that is just, I just can't even fathom that someone would have that as an only option, and it's basically because we're not taking care of them, and they should be at the top of the list, in my opinion, for people to be getting health care and benefits and things like that, not these illegal aliens that, or welfare recipients that sit at home and do nothing. But please, that's a major concern, because I've heard this over and over again, is what happens when we get to D.C. Now, I'm not privy to the closed-door meetings, but there is a lot going on that, once we get there, you'll be made aware of the plan of action, so to speak. And I guess you can kind of realize why we don't want to share, share our hand at this point, but that they're working on that. And the idea, from what I understand, is that we are going to, we've got a select group of politicians with known, criminal violations that we can go after criminally and have them arrested outright. And I think Harry Reid just got added to the list, if he's not already on it, for his political, that I think they just made a new announcement about his political misdoings with the Democratic funds or something like that. So there's another one. But then, yes, I mean, I'm going up to D.C. Everyone that's going to D.C. realizes we have a chance that our government will shoot us. We've seen it. We've seen it happen. We're seeing it with the police every day now. People in their front yard, people in their cars. I thought they had a gun. They're just mowed down before they're even asked. So, yes, I'm going up there with full understanding that I may not come back home. I may be beaten. I may be, hit. I may be locked up and maybe never heard of from again. But that's the risk that I'm willing to take. And if you really think about it, he who fires first will bear the brunt of the responsibility. Therefore, we do not want to go up there and fire the first shot, so to speak. We are going peacefully, and we are going in mass, and we have the right to be there. We have the right to peaceful demonstrations. And if the government does shoot on us, can you imagine the outrage from the rest of the country?
Well, I thought we would have seen that. I had that kind of outrage when I watched them murder the families at Waco, and I still to this day don't know why the rest of Americans bought into the mainstream presses.
Well, you know, I have to tell you, I was guilty of that then. I did not wake up till 2009. And to me, the hardest thing was to realize that our government was capable of taking two towers down and murdering 3,000 innocent people. To me, you know, and then I realized about Waco, and, you know, then you get into the JFK assassination. I mean, it has been nonstop, you know, since time began, no offense, but, you know, it's just one thing after the other. But until you wake up, until you start listening to shows like yours and alternative media, all you've got to hear from is the mainstream media that just is given their talking points and a script, so to speak, and a green screen in some respects, I understand now, and they just tell us what the government wants us to hear. I mean, Ben Goss is another prime example. Dom being assassinated, the SEAL Team 6. I mean, where do we stop? This Malaysian jet that's disappeared. You know, I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And so I do want to alleviate people's fears that we're going up there for a revolution and we're going to, you know, be shooting and, you know, cannons firing and then things like, because no, that's not that's not our intent at this time. But that we do, and really I hope that, you know, just the sheer mass of people will be enough to prevent anything from happening. I don't know if I know the biker rally was really big. I mean, again, I didn't get to see that, but the 9/12 rally, the first one I was at, was over, I think, 2.5 million people. And the sheer mass of that crowd, you know, we had to start our march sooner because the sheer mass just made the flow go, if you know what I mean. So if you can imagine 10 million people trying to amass on the mall, it's just going to be, you know, the sheer number of people has to be intimidating. And what I tell people, what I've heard is they fear us. The government fears us. And so we've got to take control. You know, we've got the power. We just don't use it.
Well, you're right. We have a lot more power than they want us to believe. And
yes.
Empires don't last, and criminal organizations don't last. We've got some senators that are going to jail now. These are the anti-gun senators, the ones that want to take the guns away from you and the veterans, and they've gone to jail for gun running.
Mhm.
FBI.
California, I think he just got arrested. Yeah.
Yee, wasn't it?
I mean,
someone, California Senator Yee.
Yes.
I mean, folks,
you can't have a gun because I need them all to sell them to these illegal gun running companies. Yeah, I know.
And by the way, those illegal gun running, they're called CIA. These are the ones that threatened me. These are the ones that bragged about drugging me. These are the ones they didn't like me exposing their drug running operation. It was called Operation Watchtower. I ran that story 25 years ago in my motorcycle magazine before I knew anything about politics. But I knew George Bush, as CIA director, ran the cocaine into this country with the help of Manuel Noriega, with the help of Michael Harari from the Mossad, and with the help of the governor of Arkansas that protected a little airport called Mena, Arkansas, kept the state boys off of it.
Right.
Yeah, he got his promotion.
Yeah.
He got his promotion, Bill Clinton.
He sure did.
And
why do you think we're in Afghanistan right now?
You know, we actually have. I mean, right now, me sitting right here with my computers, I've got enough evidence, I've got enough statements, I've got enough witnesses to put 3 presidents in jail, maybe 4 now. And that wasn't even the beginning. You know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the one that sold Americans into slavery. He sold us into slavery, made us his collateral for the bankers in 1933, and started this whole executive order crap that we got to put up with right now.
he also got us into World War II.
That's right. And Hitler wasn't necessarily the bad guy he's made out to be.
Oh no, he's the wonderful New Deal guy.
They're all part and parcel here, and they all work for the bank. Go ahead. What?
Yes, they do. You said it. You said it right there. And we, I hope that our taking out the corrupt politicians will send a message to the bankers, because the bankers too are afraid of us, and that's why they're trying to dumb us down. Zombify us with our little toys, the new cell phones that everybody's texting and doing everything on, and the games and all that kind of stuff. And then we get hit with all the bombardment from cell phone towers and the smart meters, and it's just mind controlling. The flicker on the TVs. I don't know where to start on all that that's going on with all of us.
They don't. But it's like I tell my people.
Afraid.
It's like I tell my people. They don't call television programming for nothing. They want you. It's right. Mind control at its finest.
It is. And like I said, just like with the politicians, the bankers, the elite, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, are afraid of us. They don't like people that are awake. They don't like people that have knowledge of what's going on, because we can change things. And I guess what I would really wish for is that what I'm seeing a lot of is, you were talking about it earlier, they discourage. People are trying to discourage this movement. Oh, it can't work. It's going to fail. How do you think? And that type of talk does nothing but create a division, makes people go, well, why do I bother if we're not going to, if they're not going to succeed? Well, if you don't try, you won't know if we'll succeed. And so that's where I just came to, because I kind of went through that whole mindset too. Should I go? Is it worth it? We're really going to accomplish anything? And I said, you know what? I'm going because I want to believe that we are going to succeed. And I'm putting it out putting away all that. Oh, well, good luck. I wish I could go with you, but you're not really going to do anything. Well, yes, we are. We are going to make a change.
We have the power, It's one of the things. I talk about all the things you're not supposed to talk about. Religion. That's because I don't care for the churchiosities. I don't care for religiosity. People say, why don't we see you in church, Clay? I said, because every time I walk out that door, I'm in my church. God gave me this planet, gave me this land, and I'm in my church. And that's what Jesus tried to tell you. You can do what I do and more. Because God is within us. He ain't in some church. He ain't in some church over there with a Masonic cornerstone. He's in your heart, folks. He's in your heart.
And he's not in the church that's a...
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Where the pastor's a millionaire. These mega churches are the ones that are going to be telling you to go into those FEMA camps. You know that. That's what they, I forget what they call it, but the Pastors Coalition or something like that. They're dependent on these pastors to take, not lead their flock, but to guide that flock into FEMA camps. And they're truly not pastors in the true Christian sense of the word. And so I'm with you there on that organized religion type of stuff, because it's hard to find a good church. Meaning it's hard to find a good spiritual leader that is spreading the true gospel and spreading the true world, not the 501c type of dogma that they're allowed to speak.
Well, we have them. I have them. I am on the board of directors for Timothy Bible College, which was founded by Dr. Jake Wade, who was just on my show a couple of days ago. And he calls the Bible his answer book. It's there, man. Whatever they wrote 2,000 years ago, a couple of things, I can't tell you whether it's prophecy or if it's somebody's plan. But, we've been scratching our head for 2,000 years wondering what the mark of the beast is. And there it is right there in Obamacare. called an RFID chip you can put in your hand, and you won't be able to buy or sell without it. Even my friend Aaron Russo, who he told us about that in the conversation he had with Nicholas Rockefeller, and as soon as he exposed that, they killed him.
Yeah.
It's the knowledge is out there, guys. We really got the technology to make this planet and this country right now. If we just restore the Bill of Rights and the individual liberties, we don't need the oil companies. We got enough oil in Texas to run this country at a hell of a lot of reduced rate as soon as you take International Monetary Fund and the international bankers' little greedy fingers out of it. We got enough oil in Texas to make this republic hum. And we can.
Well, and then there's a huge oil find up in Alaska that's bigger than, it's the biggest oil find in the world.
That's right.
And they won't tap it.
They don't. No, they want to control. They want to control, and we just got to take the control back from them. And I've interviewed so many people and studied so many people, inventors from Nikola Tesla on down, who gave us electricity. He could have given us a lot more, but he was sent off to a flop house to die, and all of his files taken by the FBI, by the bankers, by the Morgans.
Yep.
He could walk into a house and the house would be powered by electricity from the air. Oh, can't have that. Doesn't have a meter on it. Doesn't have a meter on it.
That's right. You can't charge people money for that.
I've got a friend.
Can't control them.
I've got a friend by the name of Paul Pantone, who invented 25 years ago when I met him up in Northern California. I loaded his little Briggs & Stratton motor in with his carburetor on it. And we could pour waste oil into that Briggs & Stratton gas tank, and it would run. And if you put it on the car, it'd get 50 to 60 miles a gallon. But that's not good for the bankers. They don't want. That's not good for the government because, well, the government makes a little bit of tax money off every gallon of gas you put in that car, so you can't get better than 50 miles to the gallon. Can't do that. That's against national security. Snowden, if the one thing Snowden did, and I mean, I had already spent 10 years in recouping from the last time they tapped my phone in 2004. So they've been doing that for a long time. They've been tapping our phones. I've got father-in-laws that built a Pogue carburetor, and then two guys in blue pinstripe suits or black suits showed up. Hi, Mr. Babcock, you got to remove that carburetor from that truck of yours and the one you're building for your neighbor over there on that bench there, and you got to destroy them. What happens if I don't? We'll kill you. He said, I believed him. I believed him. And this is all, they don't want you getting good mileage. They don't want you, we don't even need the gasoline. My God, you can put a plastic tube around your property, pump algae through it. The algae will grow faster than corn, and you can turn it into diesel when it comes out the other end. We've got answer. We've got the technology. We've got brilliant people here that can make your car run on water. They won't let them. They can run. You can power your whole house from a little magnetic generator you can build for about $150. But can't use it. Can't tell anybody because the government will come in, and they've actually extended that right up here in Arlington, Texas. You got a little group. I've been telling people for years, grow your own food, generate your own energy from everything God gave you. You don't need the bankers for nothing. And some people took that to heart, and they had a little operation they called the Garden of Eden up in Arlington, Texas. And jackbooted thugs came in, stomped under tomato plants, handcuffed them, searched the place, trashed the place, didn't find nothing illegal other than homegrown tomatoes. Just to terrorize them, you know. Can't have you growing your own food. Can't have you not eating that genetically modified stuff with a bug spray built in. Can't have you doing that. So with this can all be turned around by this March on Washington on May 15th.
I hope, I pray it does. Because if not, we are lost. That's my opinion.
Tell people what they can do right now. Excuse me for just a second. Go ahead. Hello.
Okay, like I said.
Okay. Go ahead. What can we do? What can we do?
Yeah,
How
like
can we organize this?
Go look at the website, American Spring, OperationAmericanSpring.org. Sign up. Find your state group. Sign up in that. Look through the forums. Look where they're saying we need volunteers. See what you can do. Share the word. There's some printers. There's some flyers. There's some little postcards. There's handouts, things like that you can print out. But tell all your friends. Tell your family. Share it on Facebook. Share it on any of your social medias. Talk about it in church if you can. Talk about it at the American Legion halls, the VFWs. Go to work, see if there's any like-minded people, but we need to get the word out. Operation American Spring, it starts on May 16th, 2014, and hopefully it'll be over with in 1 or 2 weeks, but it may go on longer. But we need 10 million people to show up. We need bikers, we need patriots, we need militia, we need firemen, we need police officers, we need teachers, we need students, we need farmers, we need people like me that semi-retired and trying to become a farmer, anybody that can get there. And I realize it does cost money, but there are options. People are looking to share rides, looking to share rooms. There's campgrounds set up. There's a website called Airbnb.com that offers cheap rooms in and around Washington, D.C. Make it happen. Airfare, I can't believe, from South Dakota is around $400. I know that's a lot, but it's not too much. I just feel look down deep and pray hard about this. Also, you can join the Prayer Warriors group and help surround us in prayer, because without prayer we will fail. But with your prayers, with your support, we can do this. We can take back this country, and we must. After all the things we've talked about in the last 45 minutes or so, we must take back this country. I love my country. This is not the country I grew up in, and I want to return it to that country. And I pity the poor children that are going to grow up in what's left of this country if we do not stand up and take action right now.
I think we have to
and
do that.
I appreciate the time being on your show, and I look forward to listening to some more of these, because you are a kindred soul, my friend.
Well, thank you. I've been fighting this battle for a long time here, and I won't quit. I simply won't quit.
Yes.
Now, I know you probably got some other things that you need to do, Rose told me, but you're welcome back anytime. All you have to do to go to my site is just go to my site, see what days I have open, call me. My phone number's up on every page.
Okay, I will do that.
And I will move the banner I have for Operation American Spring to the top with the other links there for the OperationAmericanSpring.org. I think I've got the links up on the Facebook site now. So we'll move that to the top until May 16th. And I will cooperate. I will have all of your people, all of your regional leaders up. You can, the Free American is yours to use to communicate with. I've got it up on Facebook, Facebook Free American 69. And in fact, it's really pretty simple. You can either work together or you can hang alone.
That's right. And I hope I can see you in DC, baby.
I would love to be there. All it takes, I need to sell some books. I need to sell some magazines. I've brought the Free American back out again. They weren't successful in killing that entirely, and they weren't successful in killing me. So all of that's up.
Yeah, and I would reach. Yeah.
Go ahead. You were what?
Well, I appreciate it, and I would ask you to reach out to your biker organizations as well. We could certainly use their support.
We will certainly do that. And
okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, dear.
And I will be talking with you shortly.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
All right. I feel like listening to this again. Hang on. Well, I get more coffee.
I am a rebel. I am American. And when it needs to be, wait and see, you know I can. I am a rebel. I am a Minuteman. And I will always fight for God and right. That's where I stand. My evolution is revolution. I was born in West Africa with revolution. I'm a farmer. I am a soldier. I just want to be free, but that's with me. You'll see that I'm unloaded. I am a rebel. I am American. And when it needs to be, you wait and see, you know I can. There is no enemy that is too strong for me. From Georgia to democracy, work my way in victory. A son of Washington, daughter of Jefferson. And though I always keep the way of peace, beware my gun. I'm not afraid to fight for all that's dear and right. And if you tread on me, then you will see an awesome ride. I am a rebel. I am American. And when it needs to be, wait and see, you know I can. I fight for liberty against all tyranny. From foreign lands or close at hand, these are my enemies. The garden's right, the human right, and godly justice is among our future's right. Don't want a handout, that's not what it's about. Don't want a chance to see what liberty can do for me. And now I stand on hallowed land. No going back, we will attack like in the sand. Cause I'm a rebel, I am American. When it needs to be, you wait and see, you know I can. You know I can. I can. You know I can. You know I can. You know I can.
All right. Not a bad show for not having a guest, huh? All right. Well, let's see what else we got. Who was that? Who was that? That was Laurel Hendricks. Laurel Hendricks. She's one of the organizers with the Operation American Spring. I'll be putting her up on the site here in just a moment or two. Catching up. What do we got here? And get that. I missed that. All right. Yeah, folks, well, can't fix that right now. Can't do that right now. Let me check on a couple of things. Oh yeah, here, where were we? I was just talking about this. You may have heard of the Libor scandal, says Matt Tabby, in which at least 3, and perhaps as many as 16, of the name brand too big to fail banks have been manipulating global interest rates, in the process messing around with the prices of upward of 500 trillion, that's a trillion with a T, worth of financial instruments. When that sprawling con burst into the public view last year, it was easily the biggest financial scandal in history. MIT professor Andrew Lowe even said it dwarfs by magnitude any financial scam in the history of markets. That was bad enough. But now Libor may have a twin brother. Word has leaked out that London-based firm ICAP, the world's largest broker of interest rate swaps, is being investigated by American authorities for behavior that sounds eerily reminiscent of the Libor mess. Regulators are looking into whether or not a small group of brokers at ICAP may have worked with up to 15 of the world's largest banks to manipulate ISDA fix, a benchmark number used around the world to calculate price of interest rate swaps. Interest rate swaps are a tool used by big cities, major corporations, and sovereign governments to manage their debt. The scale of their use is almost unimaginably massive. It's about 379 trillion market, meaning that any manipulation would affect a pile of assets about 100 times the size of the United States federal budget. I mean, you think about this on a scale, what we just talked about. We're talking about a march on Washington to take out corrupt politicians. But the politicians just work for these bankers. This is what Tibor's talking about. Rolling Stone, they got a rock and roll magazine that's got more news than the New York Times. It should surprise no one that the players implicated in this scheme to fix the prices of interest rate swaps are the same mega banks, including Barclays, UBS, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and the Royal Bank of Scotland, which serve on the Libor panel that sets global interest rates. In fact, in recent years, many of the banks have already paid multi-million-dollar settlements for anti-competitive manipulation of one form or another. In addition to Libor, some were caught up in an anti-competitive scam detailed in Rolling Stone last year to rig municipal debt service auctions, though the jumble of financial acronyms sounds like gibberish to the average layperson. In fact, there may now be price fixing scandals involving both Libor and ISDA fix, suggest a single giant mushrooming conspiracy of collusion and price fixing hovering under the ostensible competitive veneer of Wall Street culture. The scam Wall Street learned from the mafia. Why? Because Libor already affects the prices of interest rate swaps, making this a manipulation on manipulation situation. If the allegations prove to be right, that will mean that swap customers have been paying for 2 different layers of price fixing corruption. Okay, if you can imagine paying $20 for a crappy peanut butter and jelly because some evil cabal of agribusiness companies colluded to fix the prices of both peanuts and peanut butter, you come close to grasping the lunacy of financial markets where both interest rates and interest rate swaps are being manipulated at the same time, often by the same banks. It's a double conspiracy, says amazed Michael Greenberger, former director of the Trading and Markets Division of the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, now a professor at the University of Maryland. It's the height of criminality. The bad news didn't stop with swaps and interest rates. In March, it also came out that two regulators, the CFTC here in the United States and the Madrid-based International Organization of Securities Commissions, were spurred by the Libor revelations to investigate the possibility of collusive manipulation of gold and silver prices, given the clubby manipulation efforts we saw in the Libor benchmark. I assume other benchmarks, many other benchmarks, are legit areas of inquiry, CFTC Commissioner Bart Chilton said. But the biggest shock came out of a federal courtroom at the end of March, though if you follow these matters closely, it may not have been shocking at all, when a landmark class civil action suits against banks for Libor-related offenses was dismissed. In that case, a federal judge accepted the banker defendant's incredible argument. If cities and towns and other investors lost money because of Libor manipulation, it was their own fault for everything, and the banks were competing in the first place. A farce, says one antitrust lawyer's response to the eyebrow-raising decision. Courts in bed with the bankers. All these stories collectively pointed to the same thing. These banks, which already possessed enormous power just by virtue of their financial holdings in the United States, the top 6 banks, many of them the same names you see on the Libor and ISDA fixed panels, own assets equivalent to 60% of the nation's GDP, are beginning to realize the awesome possibilities for increased profit and political might that would come with colluding instead of competing. Moreover, it's increasingly clear that both the criminal justice system and the civil courts may be impotent to stop them, even if they do get caught working together to game the system. If true, it would leave us in an era of undisguised real-world conspiracy in which the prices of currency, commodities like gold and silver, and even interest rates, and the value of money itself can be and may already have been dictated from above. And those who are doing it can get away with it. Forget the Illuminati. This is the real thing. It's no secret. You can stare right at it anytime you want. The banks found a loophole, a basic flaw in the machine, across the financial system where prices or official indices are set based upon unverified data sent in by private banks and financial companies. In other words, we gave the players with incentive to game the system institutional roles in the economic infrastructure. Libor, which measures the prices banks charge one another to borrow money, is a perfect example not only of the basic flaw in this price-setting system, but of the weakness in the regulatory framework supposedly policing it. Couple a voluntary reporting system with a too-big-to-fail status and a revolving door legal system, and what you get is unstoppable corruption. Every morning, 18 of the world's biggest banks submit data to an office in London about how much they believe they would have to pay to borrow from other banks. The 18 banks together are called the Libor panel, and all of them, when all of this data from all 18 panelist banks are collected, the figures are averaged out. What emerges every morning at 11:30 London time are the daily Libor figures. Banks submit numbers about borrowing from 10 different currencies across 15 different time periods, e.g. loans as short as 1 day, as long as 1 year. This mountain of bank submitted data is used every day to create benchmark rates that affect the prices of everything from credit cards to mortgages to currencies to commercial loans, both short and long term, to swaps. Gangster bankers broke every law in the book, dating back to as far as the early 90s. Traders and others inside these banks were sometimes calling up the company geeks responsible for submitting the daily LIBOR numbers and asking them to fudge the numbers. Usually the gimmick was the trader had made a bet on something, a swap currencies or something. He wanted the LIBOR submitter to make the numbers look lower or occasionally higher to help his bet pay off. Famously, one Barclays trader monkeyed with the LIBOR system in exchange for a bottle of Bollinger champagne, but in some cases it was even lamer than that. This from an exchange between a trader and a LIBOR submitter at the Laurel Bank of Scotland. Can you put 6 million Swiss LIBOR in low, please? Primary submitter, what's it worth? I've got some sushi rolls from yesterday. Okay, low 6M, but just for you. Oh, that would be awesome. Screwing around with the world's interest rates that affects billions of people in exchange for day-old sushi, it's hard to imagine an image that better captures the immoral insanity of the modern financial services sector. Hundreds of similar exchanges were uncovered when regulators like Britain's Financial Services Authority and the U.S. Justice Department started burrowing into the befouled internals of LIBOR. The documentary evidence of anti-competitive manipulation they found was so overwhelming to read it, one became almost embarrassed for the banks. It's amazing how LIBOR fixing can make you that much money, chirped one yen trader. Pure manipulation is going on, wrote another. Yet despite so many instances of at least attempted manipulation, the banks mostly skated. Barclays got off with a relatively minor fine in the $450 million range. USB was stuck with $1.5 billion in penalties. RBS was forced to give up $615 million. Apart from a few low-level flunkies overseas, no individual involved in this scam that impacted nearly everyone in the industrialized world will even threatened with criminal prosecution. We're out of business. We're out of time. God bless. God bless you. Thanks for listening. Got almost the whole show in today.